Okay, so now it's time for an introduction to the server side, because now you understand, I hope, how the client side works and how you can get started in that. So now we should start talking about the backend and the database and the server side of things. But the first thing you need to do before we start actually doing the coding is just getting your computer set up, because as I said earlier, you need to get your local host set up so that then you can put your website files on a certain special folder in your computer that then will allow you to work with it as if it's a website that is online. So if I type in localhost here, it acts as if it's a real website online. So that localhost there actually has an IP address, which is the IP address of the localhost, and it works as if it's a domain.com, so that you can work with the site as if it's a real site. So there are many different servers that you can use online, and they can all be downloaded very easily. The one I use and I recommend you use is called Apache. Tons of people use it. It's probably the most popular one, and it's very easily used with PHP and MySQL. So we're going to use that. So what you should do, you can do this right now, just go to the Apache website, there, and then you can just download this or this. They're just two different kinds of compressions, and it's just the latest release. And you'll get a zipped file, a compressed file, so BZ2 or GZ, it doesn't really matter which, and then you can unzip it in your folder. And then the important thing is to transfer this folder, which will be called Apache 24, to your Windows C drive. That's very important. You can't keep it on your D drive or in documents. It needs to stay in the root Windows folder, the C drive, because that's the active drive that can act as a server. The data is just for data, so you can't put it on the D. And then once it's on the C drive, you should just see the Apache folder right there. So I'll let you do that. Okay, and then you can open up the Apache folder, and you'll see all these different folders within it. And you can see this folder here called htdocs. And in htdocs is where you're going to put all your all the files that will make up your website. I've got a few folders here just containing files of past websites. And the important thing is to leave the index file in there, because that's the file that will be called if you just type in localhost and not a certain path. So you see, as I put here, I put localhost, and it comes up with this little page that says it works, which is very nice to see. And you can see here that it's just a file that says it works. It's just a HTML file, actually a PHP, but it's the same thing. And so you might be getting a few errors, but there are quite a few errors that can come up with Apache. They're trying to fix them a lot, but it's pretty inevitable. But there's one trick that you can do to prevent errors and make it work perfectly well with your computer, and that's just to go to the conf file and then find the httpd configuration. And here you have this file that basically gives you all the settings for the Apache server. And normally, if you have any kind of error with the server and it's not loading the localhost, you can find the answers in here. And basically, what this file does is just it has a lot of different commands, and then some of them are they have a hashtag before them, and putting the hashtag before them makes the command not run. So for example, this load module, auth digest module, is not going to be loaded, while this one is, and all of these are. So it might be that some module that you have downloaded is not loading, and it might be that. I don't know what that is. And you can see, you can look up online whatever error you have. There are lots of errors that can come up, but they're all pretty much solvable in here. And one thing to remember is once you've done a change in this file, since it's a configuration file, you need to actually restart the server. you restart Apache, because now your computer is basically a server. So what you have to do is go to command prompt. I hope you know what command prompt is. You just right click and run as administrator. And then what you have to do is put in the link So you just put in the not the link, but the path to the Apache .exe, which is found in the bin. You can see here. So you want to find that file, httpd, and the application, which ends in exe, and you just restart that. So I can type in C, specifying the C drive, Apache 24. And this is not going to do anything for me, but if you have an error and you change something in the conf file, it's very important that you do this. So then I've specified what file I'm going to be editing, and then you just put -k, remember this, restart. And as expected, it will restart the server. Take a while, and then it's done. And then any change that you made in the configuration file will be made to the server. Yeah, if you have any errors, that anything that is got to do with Apache is going to be commanded by that conf file. So you can just look up online whatever error you're getting, and you can see what it is. So the next thing that you have to think about now is getting PHP, because PHP doesn't come directly in a browser or in your computer. It's an actual language that you need to download, and that's very easily done though. Just go to PHP download and go to their website. It's kind of complicated, these download mirror pages, but really all you have to do is just click on one of these compression types, and it will download it onto your computer. Again, you'll get a zip file, a compression file, one of these, and you have to unzip it, and then you'll get a folder just like the Apache one, and it will have a long name, but you can just call it PHP just to have it clear. And this is the folder. This is the folder that you'll get when you download PHP. So now basically you have PHP and the server on the computer working well. And to test it, again, you might be getting a lot of errors. So to test it, you can just put in the Apache htdocs, because at the beginning it will come with an index.html. So the first thing to do before you download PHP, just to make sure that the Apache thing is working, is just to put in Apache, and if it comes up with a little index.html page that says it works, then it works. But to test if PHP works, just make a new file like I did here, called index.php. You just save it as a .php file, and then try to load it. And at the beginning it'll give you a lot of errors about PHP modules not being downloaded and things like that, because as I said, you don't get it in the PC, so you might be needing a few DLL files. So there are two things that you can do with errors that happen quite commonly. So the first thing again is to go to the not the bin, to the configuration folder, and this file here. And then right at the end, you should add these lines here, which are this load module, PHP 7 module, and it'll give the link of what module you have to load, because this is not going to be written originally. And then the type of application, and then the directory of the configuration of PHP. So just these three lines, just to indicate where the PHP module is downloaded. And you might already have the PHP module downloaded. You can check if you have it here. This is where it would be found. It's the PHP 7 Apache 2_4 DLL. If you don't have that file there, then you can download it very easily online. Just search that file, and you'll get a lot of mirrors available to download it. So you can just download that and put it in your Apache root folder, and then it should be working fine. And then another similar file to the http.conf for PHP can be found in the PHP folder, and this is very, very useful in the long run when you get different errors when you're actually playing with the database connections and stuff. And that's this magical file called php.ini, which is under the configuration settings in the PHP folder. So Windows C, you'll have you remember that you have put the PHP folder that you downloaded into the C directory. So you click on that, and you go to the PHP ini file. You can open that up, and here again you have a very similar file to that, the http.configuration. And here basically again it's just this huge file with all the different settings that PHP is supposed to use. And at the beginning the settings are quite restrictive, so eventually as you get different errors you'll have to come back to this, and this time it's not hashtags but it's a colon. But you can see all these different modules. It actually explains it very well. So this and http.conf are files to go to if you're having any trouble. So just remember those. So now the thing to do is to create index.php right there, and if it loads as it does here, so this is the index.php. I have it right here, index.php, and it's loading. So for me it works perfectly fine, which is great, and I hope it works for you too. So and then once you get to this stage, if you remember that diagram that we had earlier in the course, where it described a server as being in three parts, so a web server, the backend language, and then the database. So we have two of those things. We have the server being Apache, the backend language we've got PHP, but we just don't have the database. So to have a full system for our backend, we need to get a database. And I was just saying the best database to use with those two technologies is MySQL. So if you just go to the website, if you go website, MySQL download. And here you can find all the downloads, and you have to find the MySQL database and download that. No, that's not it. But it's around here, and once you download the MySQL, you should be about set. Because it will be in your computer, and the PHP should be able to communicate with it, and it will just download as a program. You can find it here. Programs. So there you see. It will just download as a program once you find it, and then you basically have a database that the PHP can contact. So then the last thing that you need is something to monitor the database with, because the database by itself is just this long file that you will find in a hidden folder in the computer called program data. I can show you, in fact. It's quite interesting. It's a hidden file, so you have to do that. And then you can see, actually, all the... so we can go to the US states thing. And this is what a database actually looks like. It's just completely encrypted code to represent data. So this is what a database looks like. Although in the command line, it looks like a real. And in the downloading, you'll have to actually enter a password and everything. But you see, it's a table like this, and you can command it saying You see? So it looks like a neat table, although it's in this little kind of difficult to read, difficult to understand container here. But it will display a table, and this is what a database is. I showed you a database earlier in that other program that I'm going to talk to you about now, but this is what a database is going to be displayed in the command line. But in reality, it's actually just a IBD file that is just completely encrypted code. So it's a very cool way that that databases work. And but the next thing that you should download is this thing called PHP admin, my admin. Okay, and you just download it here. And what this does is it allows you to interact with the database much more in a much better way than using the little command line. So then I can put in so you can go in here and you can see exactly let's say the US states. You see, and here it's just a much easier to understand structure. I can edit the lines without having to put complicated queries in the command line, and I can see it in just a much clearer way. So I recommend that you download this PHP my admin, which just allows you to do much more. It allows you to export and import these databases, and it's just much more flexible. So yeah, now you have pretty much every component to the equation to have a fully functional backend of the system. So I hope now you understand all of this. It could be quite complicated to get MySQL to get the MySQL downloaded. I remember it being quite difficult at the beginning, but there's a lot of there are lots of tutorials on this site here, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. And once you have it, then you can start experimenting with making these little databases, which then you can communicate with the backend language. So and so next we're gonna talk about that.